Welcome to the PROcast, where we invite business doers who are changing lives by sharing their stories, their strategies and tactics, and who bravely talk about their failures that actually led to their biggest successes. Now it's time to go pro with Jeremy Torres. I was born into this world to very young and damaged people. This led to the type of childhood that had just a few mental and emotional issues, as you would probably expect from a kid being raised with this type of upbringing in the 1970s. What I didn't know at the time is that there would be a day in my life, a moment with such impact that it would lead to a reckoning. One single drunken, slurred sentence that would change my life forever. But first, let me ask you, do you exercise? When you do work out, do you listen to music? What kind of music do you listen to? Do you listen to Bob Marley or Jimmy Buffett? No, probably more like Slipknot or Rage Against the Machine, right? Well, why do we listen to this music? It's because we need to get pushed to our limits, to get to our breaking point so we can sweat and get the most out of that moment that we're dedicating to our exercise. It's the music that we're using as a stimulus to motivate us, to get our adrenaline pumping. But should you really need that kind of music, that stimulus and motivation to push yourself to that limit? Shouldn't you have it inside of you to get out every ounce of your potential during that time? Well, everybody knows the power of music. Nobody can deny what it does for you. But what do you use to stimulate, to motivate your drive to succeed in other parts of your life, like your general health, the way that you eat, the choices you make in your relationship, your learning goals, your career aspirations? Where do you go to find that push to stick with it? Do you need that stimulus to be able to focus on a goal or a task at hand? Or do you find yourself losing interest during fatigue? You lose some energy, or you find maybe just something better that pops up into your mind? Or do you get tunnel vision, where you can't see anything else but what you're trying to get done, and you can't put it down until you conquer it? You see, for me, figuring out a brain teaser, chain link, little trinket game that my daughter gives me for Christmas isn't any different than me figuring out that riddle to the key that is the battle that I've had for the last 10 years with my weight or anxiety eating, or working on a set of reports during a hurricane restoration project where I've got countless contractors out there doing so much work, and they're having so much dependence on me to get them paid, that I stay up for 36 hours in a row every single week for 6 weeks in a row. Every other few days I'm up for 2 days straight doing paperwork without any sleep whatsoever, because they're depending on me to get this done, and my company's depending on me to get this done so that we can bill. And I will not let them people in my life down who depend on me. So the difference between these two examples is mindset, your outlook, but most importantly, your in-look. I may have made that last word up, but it's your in-look that is your drive. When you know what you want, and no force in this world can get you off of that task. Not even your own words yelling at you from inside of your head to stop, go to bed, get some sleep. It'll be here tomorrow. What are they doing for you? What is this getting you? You've done good. You've done more than anyone else, but you're not done. And you know you're not done. And that in look knows it. Without that, you will fail. Now, motivation is temporary. As David Goggins so eloquently talks in his book, Can't Hurt Me, David says that motivation will let you get your running shoes on. It'll allow you to get your running water contraption all set up, and it lets you to plan your 2-mile run in your app, in your iPhone. But the second you hit that door and it's raining or snowing or the weather conditions just aren't perfect, the motivation is going to find you back on the couch watching TV, saying to yourself, there's always tomorrow. At least I tried. And you're going to consider that a win. And that is not what drive is. Drive is something that will have you run through that doorway no matter what the conditions are outside, no matter what the elements are, because you will run your 2 miles. And there's no force in this world that will stop that if you're truly driven. Now, how is your in look? Are you focused on your mistakes, your surroundings, your family history, your past actions? Do you relive your failures over and over? This is not in look. This is living in the past. Those of you who know me know that I don't sleep too much. I call it insomnia because it's easier than explaining to people who don't know me too well that I'm simply crazy. I'm consumed with my passions, with my future, with my projects and my responsibilities. I'm driven. It's something that I have in common with a hero of mine. And I use that word very sparingly, but in this case, it's very accurate. Jocko Willing was recently on a Joe Rogan podcast, Joe Rogan Experience, when he was talking about how little he slept. And I'm going to do my best Jocko impression right now. But Jocko said, well, people ask, why don't you sleep more? And I answer, bro, I wish I could. I wish that there was a little thing. I wish there wasn't a little thing in the back of my head going, hey, you know, you could be doing a lot more right now. What about this? What about that? What about the other thing? What's going on in my head? That's what's going on in my head. There's not something in my head saying, gee, you have to wake up. No, there's a thing saying, you better get up. You better get up. They're tracking you. They're watching you. You better get up. It's happening. There's a bad guy out there. He's training harder than you. That's what's in my head. Please, let the freaking powers of the world allow me to go to bed each night and just pass out and go, oh, I'm good. I'm so satisfied right now. I wish I could feel that feeling, that freaking 8 hours a night. It ain't there. It ain't there. It's like, oh, people talk about staying hungry. I'm freaking starving. I'm starving. Now, end scene. Or and scene. I don't know what they say in those positions, but did I always have this mindset? This is what people who know me ask me. This drive, this consumption or consuming for improving. It's a consumption of improvement, and it's a consuming passion for improvement. No, it was quite the opposite. Back to that story. I grew up dejected and rejected with zero self-esteem, with no self-esteem. I was filled with rage. I fought every single day for many, many years. I had parents who were alcoholics and drug users and partiers. They were fun, I'll give them that. But there was no pride in my house, only humiliation the morning after, and getting up and after myself, and watching out for my brother and sister because they needed me to. Luckily, with all of that rage, I had a good heart in me. And I did have a few glimmer of signs of hope that my life would change, that there was something better for me. But my bar was set so low that getting over it would take no effort whatsoever, and it would be better. And I remember some people telling me throughout my teens that I had a way of talking to people and a way of seeing things differently, and that I would make a good lawyer. And that was like telling me that I could beat up Mike Tyson because I fought a lot. It was not a thing. Being a lawyer wasn't a thing. It was crazy. And I knew where I was from, what I was made of. And worse, I had people telling me all the time that I was nothing. They told me with their actions, with their gestures, with their words. And every time I got into a fight, which was almost daily, I just would always hear, "That's just Jeremy," you know? So when me and my sister were very, very young, she told me once that she didn't think that our dad was our dad. I was 18 months younger than her, and we were laying on our little rollout bed in the bedroom. We shared a bed, and we were going to sleep, and she just looked at me and she said, "Our mother has blonde hair like us, and our dad has dark hair." And I really didn't know what she meant at the time. So I just told her, we just look differently. And she said, "Yeah, but the family, they look at us differently." And I was thinking, I was very young, and I said, well, in my head, she's deaf. My sister is deaf, and she's 18 months older, but she couldn't hear anything. And I was like, well, you could probably get looked at like that from a lot of people, and you're just being, self-conscious. And I knew they looked at us differently because of my parents' behavior. So I knew that they were looking at us differently for a different reason. I didn't want to tell her that, though, that they thought we were trash. So I went off to sleep. I was probably about 7 years old at the time. Well, many years later, I was about 21, after my sister got married, I got a drunken phone call from my grandmother, which was basically just a phone call from my grandmother. It's redundant to say it was drunken because she was that way every single time I talked to her my whole entire life. But I loved her. She was great for me. She was horrible for my mom, but she'd try to do a lot of makeup with me, but she was always drunk. But I found out on that call that my dad's newest wife at the time was complaining that they had to drive 3 states over to my sister's wedding. And why did we have to go? Because my dad wasn't even Jeremy and his sister's father. And boom, there it was. Like that. I was transported through space and time from there to that bed 14 years ago, looking at my sister telling me that our father isn't our father. And I can tell you that I was there in that bed at that minute. And after the shock wore off, I thought, good. What a relief. This is a game changer. Wow, got goosebumps thinking about it. I had a chance. I had a do-over. I love my dad. I love him. I still love him. I still talk to him every single day. Well, not every day, but a whole lot. I talk to my dad a lot, and we talk about this. It's not a secret, but I was relieved. But I went on a mission at that time, and this was 1991 or so, 92. There was no internet yet. I went on a mission, and I looked everywhere. I shook every tree. I upset a lot of apple carts. There was a lot of hurt feelings. And there had been no communication whatsoever between this person and my mother. So after one day I got a name. My mom might have taken a trip during about that time and got a name. And I got lucky and called the school and got to talk to a principal who knew this name. He gave me the phone number to his office. And when I called, you won't believe it, I couldn't believe it when the secretary picked up the phone and said, law offices of yada, yada, and yada. My father was a lawyer. I had lawyer DNA, after all. It changed my life. In that moment, it spun me 180 degrees. I was a ditch digger at the time, basically digging up pits and doing installs and being an install contractor. Within 4 years, I was promoted 4 times. Then I was asked to join the local cable company. Within 8 months, I was a supervisor. Then I was a manager, probably the youngest manager at the company at that time, watching $50 million worth of upgrade. I had 40 some odd contractors under my charge and 20 employees. And when, at the time, was I ready for all of that? In that short of time to grow that much? No, hell no, I wasn't. But I was getting to my reckoning. I was getting my reckoning on. Not with negativity, not with anger, not with hate, but with love. Love for myself, something that I'd never had in my whole life. I had love for myself. I have supreme confidence. I could do no wrong. Even though I did a lot of wrong, I could make up for it. I had it in me. And I would prove to those people in my life that I was a winner. And that was my reckoning. Now, I made plenty of mistakes and I pissed off a lot of people. And I probably did a million things wrong that I wish I could do over. But whenever I failed, I smiled. I actually smiled. I liked failing. I would say that I didn't like the feeling of failure. I didn't like the regret of the failure, but I knew that I would make up and go on and get better because of it. When I was in my mid-20s, I took up martial arts, American Kempo in Coral Springs, Florida. Shout out Mr. Crawl, Mr. Black Star, Mr. Russo. But with every kick to the stomach and every punch to the face, I would smile. And they started calling me Jay Ain't Right, because I would just smile and that pain would wash over me. I didn't even know I was smiling. I was thinking, I'm still standing. You with your black belts and your stripes and all your training, you couldn't get me down. Well, the truth is they got me down a hell of a lot, but I got up every single time smiling. And they would say, Jay ain't right. They would yell it. That's my name. But you see, I lived out of my memory when I was younger. I focused on the past. I focused on the names and the names that people called me, on the labels that they assigned to me. They all wanted me to fail, and I bought it every day. But when I heard that my DNA wasn't connected to that sentence that they gave me, that I had control of living my own imagination, I shifted my focus to the future. Stephen Covey says, what lies beneath us what lies behind us is nothing compared to what lies within us and ahead of us. That's rule number 2, begin with the end in mind, of the 7 habits of highly effective people. In that book, he writes, you need to listen, reflect, remember, and then imagine, redefine, refocus, reorganize. Then write your problems in the sand because they're temporary. He advises us to find our unique gifts and listen to those who see potential in you, and study the lives of the people who you admire or who inspires you. It starts with identifying your core principles. And I will do another show on that. It's got a lot of good stuff in there, but it's never, ever been ever easier to rebuild yourself, a brand new you every day, with the tools and the resources available to you and us now. I hope this message will inspire you to acknowledge your past and admit your mistakes and your shortcomings, but to imagine your future and redefine your legacy. When you dream at night, dream big, but get up and chase that dream. I'm going to leave you with a quick quote from Henry Ford. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Thank you for joining. We look forward to seeing you again.